In this video, I will introduce the Supergrid data workflow. First, let's create a folder. Inside of this folder, we are going to create our first data file. The file name has a convention. It uses a rounded bracket and a comma delimited tag list. For instance, I will be talking about a specification. So this file has a tag named specification. And this file will be talking about Supergrid data workflow. And it is a markdown file. The Supergrid data workflow has a few components. First, it has a single project folder. In this case, that is a demo folder we have created. Second, it has a variety of data file formats. For instance, you have a Csv Data Table, and you have a markdown text document, and you have YAML object data, and you have images and other binary files. Third, it has a particular naming convention for those files. That is rounded brackets with comma delimited tag names, followed by a grid, global unique identifier, that is the name of the file or the name of the data object, and the suffix. For instance, we can have an image that is about the food item, and that has particular name and suffix. That's it. One thing to note that notice no subfolders are allowed in this workflow. So you shouldn't have any subfolders inside your project folder. That's what it means by a single project folder. Alright, so let's see a few examples. In this demonstration, I will migrate an existing database. So I used to store some data in the CoachDB, but I find the format of those data quite inconvenient. For instance, the full name, it doesn't really make sense, and they have these things I don't really want to see. So one way to solve this problem is you develop a custom interface. So you develop a custom program that can read in only the data you need. But obviously, the whole purpose of using a workflow-based approach is to avoid the overhead of developing new softwares. So we want a cleaner interface. So to do that, if we want to store this folder item, there are two ways to do this. Actually, we don't need this folder. We already have the Visual Studio Code open here. One way is to use a YAML data object or YAML object data. So let's create a new file, and that file will store data about a food. And the name of the file is called, it's gone. So it's a food fusion, and it's YAML file. And you can put in the attributes for this, or the properties for this object. In this case, we can just copy everything here, paste it here, and we can delete it from the CoachDB. Alright, so let's clean this up. First, for the name, because we already have the name in the file name, you don't necessarily need this column, but you can still have it for clarity. So we are going to have it. And then for YAML format, you no longer need those quotation marks. The classification is an array, and the elements of the array don't need quotation mark as well. The rest items, we don't really need it, so we are not going to have all of them. That's it. Okay, cool. So that's our first item. Let's do another one. This one doesn't have much content. Let's close it. Let's find something else. Okay, this one also doesn't have much content. That's bad. Okay, this one is interesting. So we create a new file. This is still food, and it's called mapo tofu. That is a YAML data object. Copy everything, delete the original one, and we have the name field mapo tofu. By the way, if you have the name field explicitly defined in the data object, it has to match that of your file name. And then we have the cuisine. That's the Chinese, talking about which I would like to promote this particular value as a tag as well. This choice is very personal or very conventional, so it totally depends on your post-processing pipeline. In my case, I would like to be able to search or categorize this particular data item under the cuisine type. And we have the classification, which is empty. Okay, so if it's empty, we can say it's null. And the ingredients and etc. In this case, I'm going to keep those fields just to have some idea what other attributes it can have, and leave them empty. Finally, we have the description property. Good. Notice the name of those attributes are entirely arbitrary. It totally depends on the particular application scenario you are having. As I have mentioned, it depends on the post-processing pipeline you have. Okay, cool. So that is the YAML object data. There's another way to store those data. That is to use the Csv Data Table. So let's create a CSV file. I'm going to give it a tag called summary, and that is the food items.csv. And the tag name, so that depends on your convention. So my recommendation is that the tag name is case insensitive, while the attribute name for the YAML files are case sensitive. And also the file name themselves are case insensitive as well. Here, in order to more efficiently edit the CSV file, we recommend a particular extension for Visual Studio Code that is called the Edit CSV extension. So install this extension, and after you have installed the extension, what you can do is, let me hide this, sorry. Let me go back. Yeah, actually I can use Control B, but hide this. Okay, cool. And then give it a few headers. In our case, we have name, cuisine, classification, serving size, ingredients, recipe, and image URL. Finally, we have description. After that, you can open the tool and you can add new rows. And you can just type in your values inside those rows. Add a new row. I'm trying to actually find a example where my classification is an actual array. Yeah, unfortunately those things are mostly empty. Okay, this one's good. So this is a hot pot. It's Chinese. So the classification here is an array. If you are trying to create an array inside a CSV file, you got to have some custom convention. In this case, I would use comma delimited values. And the serving size would be no. The image URL is this. No. Good. For this particular value, inside the CSV file, it will use the convention of the quotation mark to denote an array. So if you use this extension, then everything is handled for you automatically. Good. Now let us illustrate one last type of file, that is the image and binary data files. So in this case, we are going to take a look at this particular image, and to find this image, we can just search it on Google and can find the image. If we, this is interesting. If we download the image and put it into our project folder, and make sure that the file name we have here actually matches the file name we have in the here. Okay, I'm going to give it a tag because I would like to be able to find it by tag as well. And it's a food and it's image, and I'm going to copy everything and paste it here. Oh, okay, actually there's some issue, so let me edit it here. Here, okay, cool. That will handle it for you. So it will create the quotation marks. Good. That are all the those are all the data file formats. Thanks for watching.